It's my honor to join the panel today, and I'm really humbled and great to share my experience with everyone. And really fortunate to speak up to two great gentlemen here. And I would like to say, actually, as opening, say the communist regime is the enemy of all humanity. They are the enemy of the Chinese people as well. They are not just a threat to the United States. They are the enemy of the whole human civilization.
Amen.
So for me, when I was young, I was just a freshman in college. I had the opportunity to go to Beijing to support the student movements in 1989. And on the eve of the persecution, and fortunately, a small group of students were able to withdraw from the Tiananmen Square. But when we withdraw, the PLA already opened the fire, and you can hear the gunshot hitting the monuments. And so we were the lucky group left the Tiananmen Square, and we don't know how many people died at the square. And we don't know how many civilians died to blocking the military marching into Tiananmen Square. So when we left the Tiananmen Square, when we heading north, when we passing the Chang'an Street, a tank passing by, a young student scared, and he fell on the ground. But the tank stopped, intentionally rolling back, crushed his skull. So his head is like a piece of paper on the ground. It was a very horrifying thing, and it was happening right in front of my eyes. The students group, we were all petrified. And very fortunately, the soldier didn't come out of the tank to shooting at us. The tank rolled away. We were petrified in there. Then we started to run away. We were really scared. And later on, when we passed another junction, another tank come over, the soldiers started coming out, throwing the tear gas at us. So we have to run. We have to hide in the civilian's house to protect ourselves. Well, this is one example of how the Chinese Communist Party can do to its own people. Young students die. My friend in Tsinghua University told me one of his classes lost 1/3 of students in one night. But the tragedies did not just stop there. The Communist Party's nature never changed throughout the history. You can see so many political movements after they taking over China since 1949, taking the land away from the farmers, taking the property away from private entrepreneurs. And sometimes we say the Chinese Communist Party raped Chinese society twice. First time they say it belonged to the government, belonged to the Communist Party, because in Chinese Communist concept, the party equals the government, right? So when they say the property belongs to the government, the Communist Party ripped away people's property. That's in the 1950s and 60s. And then after the so-called economic reform, they ripped it twice. Now they say we need to be privatized. Through different maneuvers, like management buyout, all these state property now becomes Communist Party elite's property. So they rip Chinese people twice. And killing people, it happened all the time. And we know, like in 1959 to 1961, more than 30 million people were starving to death because Chinese Communist Party's terrible policy of Great Leap Forward movements that causing people to starve in their hometown. And they used the militaries to block people going out of their village to beg food. So many people were forced to starving to death. And unfortunately, at that time, the media was not so so advanced like nowadays. No people can even release this information to the outside world. And after Tiananmen Square, unfortunately, Western society gave China additional opportunity. And when the Communist Party find another chance to survive, they further launched comprehensive war against all religions in China too. And Falun Gong group is just one example. And this is a traditional Chinese belief that grew even bigger than the Communist Party. Before the Communist Party cracked down, in 1999, more than 70 million to 100 million people practice Falun Gong. And it's practice based on the cosmic nature of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. So the Communist Party even did not allow people to try to be good person. What they want is a Chinese population they can engineer. Communist Party always have a saying, they say that the teachers are the engineers of people's soul. Can you believe that? They want to engineer people's soul. That's why they wipe out the traditional belief in China, criticize the Confucianism, and then crack down so many different religions. So the Chinese people don't have their own spiritual belief. They cut down the tie of Chinese people to their traditional heritage, to their spiritual belief. Because in Chinese 1,000-year history, people believe in Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism. This is embedded in Chinese people's gene. But Communist Party try to engineer Chinese people into a people without soul. That's the purpose for their crackdown against all religions. And you can see the consequence. And now the Chinese company using the tactic that persecute Falun Gong against Muslim Uyghurs, underground churches, and using surveillance technology to further social engineer people, and using social credit system as well to further engineer people. And we know one of the biggest crime they did is also exposed. It's organ harvesting. They can kill innocent prisoner of conscience, take their organs, make profit of it, and kill the people while they're still alive. So that's why you see in China, the transplant center can advertise, come here for kidney transplant. In 2 to 4 weeks, we find you a kidney match. In 1 month, 2 months, we can find you a kidney match, and you can prescribe the operation date. And this is a state-run enterprise. They can kill people for its profit. In very large scale. According to data from the doctors against forced organ harvesting, in the last 20 years, more than 1 million people were organ harvested. It's a very huge scale, and it's still ongoing. And right now you see the coronavirus situation is another clear example of how Chinese government can treat its own people. To Chinese Communist Party, dying even 1 million people doesn't matter. It's just a number, it's just a statistic. And when they see the outbreak in other countries, like South Korea, in Iran, more outbreak happen in those countries, the Communist Party is laughing at it, because now they find a reason to say, right, you see other countries cannot control the outbreak too, and we're probably doing better. We are using more draconian measures, and we contribute to 99% of the infection inside China. We help in the world. This is actually official tone. The Chinese government now been using, they've been promoting this concept in Chinese media to further brainwashing Chinese people, to make them feel they're proud that the government's draconian measure. And I think the US government will be falling into Chinese propaganda trap if we praise in China's efforts to contain the virus. It's definitely a trap because they're using very sophisticated propaganda tools. They use WHO to work with Google's and other social media platform. And any YouTubers, if you talk about coronavirus, nowadays Google very easy to yellow tag you so that you cannot receive money, no advertisement for these kind of videos. In the name that you need to control the misinformation about coronavirus. And WHO is leading, it's working cohort with the Chinese government on this one. And then they blame the United States, like Gordon mentioned. So is this a whole complete sophisticated scheme to blame the United States for coronavirus outbreak? So you can see to them, dying more people in the world doesn't matter because they can justify. We're doing better, we do better control in China. So that's the nature of the Communist Party. So the threat is imminent there. And the world definitely need to know what the communists want to do next so that we can prepare ourselves. And we need to really understand the Communist Party is against all humanity. And it's the enemy of the Chinese people, and it's the enemy of the whole civilization. Thank you.